everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on this esteemed panel to discuss an issue that's very dear to my heart and the rest of the team members and friends of the Congo. Be looking primarily at the U.S. role in destabilization of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, former Zaire. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is arguably the most strategic country on the African continent, located in the heart of the continent. Country the size of Western Europe, with an estimated 70 million people. The only country on the African continent that has 9 other countries bordering it. It is the 4th largest in population and 2nd in terms of area. And the Congo has experienced the deadliest conflict in the world since World War II, according to the International Rescue Committee and the United Nations. The International Rescue Committee did a mortality study in 2008, where it documented that from 1998 to 2007, estimated 5.4 million Congolese lost their lives due to the conflict and conflict-related causes. Half of those children under the age of 5. So, with a country that is strategic in the heart of the African continent, that has suffered such a tremendous tragedy, why is it that so little is written about it, spoken about it? And this is across the board, whether we're talking about the mainstream media, progressives, PanAfricans, intellectual scholars. You would think there would be a plethora of research and writing on this devastation, especially considering its strategic significance, which was identified early on by the United States. The Congo was the first country in the African continent that the United States intervened in post-independence Africa. In 1960, the U.S. got engaged in the Congo, ostensibly to remove its independence hero and democratically elected leader, Patrice Emery Lumumba. Just this past year, at the start of the year, the State Department published the declassified documents on U.S. covert action in the Congo from 1960 to 1968, where it documented, and Stephen Weissman, who also wrote on this era in a book entitled American Foreign Policy in the Congo, that for the first decade of the Congo's independence, for all intents and purposes, it was controlled by the CIA in terms of its politics, its leaders, decision-making processes, and as we all know, the CIA under Lawrence Devlin, which he laid out in his book, CIA Chief of Station, shifted, not only removed the democratically elected leader Patrice Emery Lumumba, orchestrated his overthrow, but also facilitated his assassination. And in doing that, Lawrence Devlin said that we had to remove Lumumba, because if we did not remove Lumumba, not only would we have lost Congo, but we would have lost all of Africa. Laying down the significance of Congo to the United States at the time. The studies, recently published declassified studies, documented that the operation, the CIA covert operation in the Congo from 1960-68 was the largest covert operation at the time in the world. So this intervention on the part of the United States early on, not only in removing Lumumba and aborting the democratic process in the Congo, but also removing all elements of its party, the Mouvement National, National Congolese Movement. So it wasn't just a question of assassinating a leader, but decapitating the leadership and excising a party that was freely elected by the Congolese people. And this cast a die for what we would see today in the Congo. After Lumumba was removed, the United States imposed the dictator, Mobutu Sese Seko, for over 3 decades on the Congolese people. When, at the end of the Cold War, the US grew tired and Mobutu no longer served its interests, instead of supporting a burgeoning pro-democracy movement in the Congo that came out of the 1980s and early 1990s, and that culminated in what the Congolese called a National Sovereign Conference, calling for multi-party democracy, inclusion of the Congolese population in the decision-making process of the nation. Instead of backing that pro-democracy movement, what the United States did was to support an invasion of the Congo by its erstwhile allies, the Rwandan government and the Ugandan government, which launched an invasion of the Congo in 1996 and removed Mobutu in 1997 and installed Laurent Desire Kabila. Now, when Kabila did not play the game as the Clinton administration outlined in what they call the Entebbe principles, which were established when President Clinton traveled to Africa in 1998 in Entebbe, Uganda, where under President Clinton, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs Susan Rice, they identified what they called the Renaissance leaders, the new leaders, the new breed of African leaders, who ostensibly would support U.S. economic, political, military interests, strategic interests on the African continent. And among them, we have, of course, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and Paul Kagame of Rwanda. And there are others in Ethiopia and elsewhere as well. But those were the main concern. And with Madeleine Albright visiting Congo in the late 1990s, President Laurent Kabila, who had been installed by the Rwandan and Ugandan militaries, backed by the United States, was not up to playing the game, being part of that new breed of African leaders. So a second war was launched in 1998, where Rwanda and Uganda invaded Congo for the second time and backed again by the United States. When I say backed by the United States, I mean in terms of military equipment, intelligence, training, all that financing was provided to Rwandan and Ugandan governments. As former State Department official Gregory Stenton stated in our short film, Crisis in the Congo, Uncovering the Truth. Now, with Kabila not having an army and a military, he reached out to the Southern African Development Community. At the time, Zimbabwe was setting up the military division. So Zimbabwe, Namibia, and Angola came to the side of Laurent Desire Kabila, and that launched what we, some people call Africa's Great World War, where some 11 African nations were involved in the conflict in the Congo, and the country wound up divided, where between the Southern African Development Community and their allies, and the Rwanda and Uganda backed by the United States. So, this is what triggered the conflict that the IRC is documenting. And since the Clinton administration to today, the policies that were established in Entebbe are still in force. That is to say, the United States supporting strongman as opposed to strong institutions, where Obama signaled a shift in Ghana in 2009 in his speech, and again in Cape Town in 2013, where he said the United States is ready to support strong institutions and not strong men. Yet, those Renaissance leaders, those strong men that received not only the military, financial backing of the United States, but also received diplomatic and political cover, especially at international institutions that were brought to hold them accountable. That policy, for all intents and purposes, is still in place, in spite of the fact that, okay, in spite of the fact that President Obama, as senator, his signature legislation as a senator was a bill that he got passed into law in the Congo, entitled Democratic Republic of the Congo Relief, Security, and Democracy Promotion Act, short Public Law 109-456. And in that law, there are certain significant sections. Section 105 of the law calls on the U.S. Secretary of State is authorized to withhold aid from countries that destabilize the Congo. SIC meaning U.S. allies, Rwanda and Uganda, who have been destabilizing the Congo since 1996. Section 102 of the law calls on the United States to support democracy in the Congo. And a third section that's of significance, 107, calls on the United States to appoint a special envoy to the region, which they've done with former Senator Russ Feingold. So, in Obama's first term, he had done nothing to act on this law, in spite of the millions of lives that have been lost in the Congo, while arguing at the United Nations under the principle, the R2P principle, responsibility to protect, that the United States had to intervene in Libya when thousands are supposed to have been dying under Muammar Gaddafi. So we had a situation where the administration continued a policy that, for all intents and purposes, had been enforced for the last 50 years. It was not until 2012 when the contradictions started to be raised by our organization, Friends of the Congo, where we pointed out that there was a law in the books, it wasn't being discussed, had elements, diplomatic elements that can be addressed the conflict in the Congo, but it was not being enforced by the Obama administration. Then Africa Confidential, Foreign Policy, and other publications started picking it up. And it is at this time that President Obama and the Obama administration started to withhold military aid from Congo's aggressors. And we've seen the fruits of that, in that the destabilizing of the Congo has been reduced with the defeat of the most lethal militia group in the country that had displaced 1 million people and recruit child soldiers and caused instability in the east of the country. So we look to address some more of these and any questions in the question and answer period. Just wanted to share a brief overview of U.S. foreign policy from 1960 to the present, and how it is that the United States continue to support Strongman, arm them in terms of military equipment, training, financing, and providing intelligence, and diplomatic and political cover at the international level.